What's up, guys? Well, I wonder if anyone's in here. They'll tell me in a minute, I believe. Oh, hello. So, as usual, uh, during my live streams, if you have any questions, just let me know. Um, these are usually just points that I've written down over the past couple of weeks that I just kind of go over what I was thinking at that time. I am going to talk a lot about personality type growth. And the repression functions and how we can bring those functions to consciousness. But before I get into all that, I just kind of want to let you guys know that I'm going to do a live stream for 30 days straight. That way I can do it at different times. And if anybody has questions, because I'm at like 400 subscribers and I don't know who everybody is. And I'm sure that if I go live, maybe you guys will interact. So I just want to see like what kind of subscribers I have, what you guys want to hear about and things like that. So just wanted to let you guys know that. I'm also going to start doing typing. I said I wasn't going to a while back, and it wasn't because I wanted to make sure that like if I start typing people, I'm going to do a good job at it. So probably in about 2 months, I'll have my program ready to type, and there'll be material for coaching to really accelerate your development. Now I'm going to get into some of the things that I've thought about over the past couple weeks, and one of them was like which model to use for talking about cognitive functions. And like I use the 8 function, but the 4 is really good. And as you guys have probably seen, like there's the two function model. I do think that the problem with the 2 function model is that it was recognized that the second function isn't really a strength to begin with. It's something that needs to be developed into a strength. Also, from my personal understanding, I like to use neuroscience, which really shows that there's a lot of processes going on in our head during different tasks. And even the 4-letter model, it's really good to start out from, but it misses a lot of things that even Jung talked about, which were like apperceptions, which is like taking what you already have existing and a new sensation or impression coming in and being able to create an idea off of that. So with just using the 4 functions, it doesn't work out to explain like how do you really come to that decision, you know? But what we can actually think about with the 8 function model is that like even if we are only using like 4 functions, the functions that are repressed or in the shadow, they have a role in our life no matter what. And it's really easy to explain with the introverted functions. So for myself as an INTP, when you really look at what TINE and SI do, it's not really much in the outer world. But if you consider that TE has a role to play on our introverted thoughts, so what is extroverted already when we're born, basically? These are the archetypes that are already set up. All of these have like basically extroverted thoughts packaged up into extroverted sensation, which gets distributed to us. That's what the Bible is. It's an extroverted sensation. That's what, when you learn math and reading, you're getting extroverted sensation packages of extroverted thoughts, the things that you need to understand. So the things that you need to understand when you are becoming a human and becoming conscious. And these things actually, so you get, a good way to look at it is your TI and your SI are connected to SE and TE. SI can't form without the initial SE. This is the sense perception that all people really have. So right there is why I at least say we have to use an 8-function model to really understand how we're cognizing things. And if you saw the thumbnail, these are the kind of models I'm showing. Is like, yeah, eventually it splits where someone really prefers to have like an introverted sensing type of cognition, and somebody would really prefer the extroverted sensing type of cognition. But for the most part, you can definitely get away with the 4-function model until you want to understand, like, how are you going to be in certain environments. And now another thing I want to bring up is specifically about extroverted sensing, because it is the function that allows us to generate consciousness from the outside. So for extroverted sensing, I think that there's like a cycle to development, and based on where extroverted sensing falls in that 8-function model, because it can really fall in the beginning or it can fall in the end, is going to determine how long of a cycle it plays out for you to actually emerge in the outer world in the present context of what you're doing. So one reason I see this, what I see happening is that like a lot of extroverted sensors really are the most grounded. Like they can adapt to the real world situation of, you know, whatever they get through grade school and high school, colleges, to a family and a job. And when you see anybody who doesn't even have extroverted sensing in the top 4, it always seems like they do have a harder time getting into the real world. They actually do have to kind of take a longer process of getting there. So if you're just, so for an INTP, if you're just using the 4-letter code, right, your TI and SI are really just storing facts. And your TI is basically scanning for the most important facts that you're going to hold on to. And even NE requires some type of use for those facts because it's attached to an introverted thinking that needs an objective. And NE is really only connecting to like unconscious things, so it needs to connect to like the effectiveness. So there is no really way to play out certain personality types without taking into consideration the structures that we were put into. And then even more so, okay, if you ever watched the movie Soul on Disney, we do, like, what draws us to be interested to something in reality. That's something that I think is very interesting, because like, why do I want to be on YouTube? Why do I want to make videos about MBTI? Why do I care about MBTI? Like, what draws me to this? And I think it's like that's more of like an instinctual thing. And I think that more has to do with like the repressed introverted functions. So if you think about, for myself, it would be my introverted feeling and introverted intuition. And I think I really don't repress those that much, but it does require a lot of work to act on them. Like you have to use like your extroverted functions to really act on any of those instincts. And I know as a child, I wouldn't have taken action a lot of times. And this is getting into the next thing, like, what is your like, who's your tribe, and how are they helping you grow? Because, okay, for me as a kid, I just like really just tried to fit in, so I played sports, and I chose football because that's pretty much the sport of my town. And when I was playing football, the wrestling coach had come out and said, you know, like, wrestling is a good sport to get you good at football. And he picked a few people to like join the wrestling team, and I wasn't one of them. So because I wasn't really selected, but I really found like for some reason I was just drawn to like what this coach was talking about. I was like, okay, well, he doesn't want me on the team. I kind of want to be on the team, but I really wasn't going to sign up because it's just like um, there wasn't even like an SI to connect it to. It wasn't like something like my family has done. It was like something that I would have had to do completely new. But because of interactions, that when I brought that up to my dad, who has my first and third function in a reverse order, he was able to kind of give me permission. And I do think that like sometimes like you need to think about how the functions interact with other functions, because if my dad it wasn't my dad, he might not have given me permission, or he might have told me that was a bad idea and only focus on football. And I'm not saying that's wrong for everybody, but I ended up liking wrestling more than football somehow. And honestly, if I had actually acted on my instincts later on, instead of just trying to fit in, I probably would have gave up football for wrestling to like accelerate at that, because it still is a repressed thing. It wasn't even that conscious to me, because generally I wasn't the kid who hated high school, and I just found ways to enjoy it kind of. So taking the repressed functions actually helps you to use your instincts in a better way. The thing is that sometimes you need help to use those repressed functions. Now, if you are only getting a 4-letter type code, then you're never really going to understand those repressed functions. But there is some obvious things to cognition that have to be accepted before you get into type. So now I'm going to talk about intuition, because honestly, I think that when you're young, intuition isn't even a thing. And I think it almost comes in like stages. Like when you hit puberty, like I think you get like a stronger intuition function in general. And one thing I think you're going to see is like an NI user can actually set very strong goals when they turn about 12 or 13 for their future. And NE users may often start like doing the same thing, but it's going to be a different way through an extroverted intuition, where it's more connecting pieces to figure out like where it fits, because it's connected to an introverted judging function like TI or FI. So that's really like the first stage of intuition. And then like through more data collection, which is SE and SI. SE is the data points, SI is the consolidation and collection of those data points, which can be recognized. And they've already been evaluated in some way. For myself, it is like, is it affecting anybody in a negative way? Honestly, if something's not really affecting anybody in a negative way, it doesn't really bother me. So it goes through my FE, which automatically means, okay, there's an FI there. But anyway, so TI and SI are doing that. And what your NE is really doing is like kind of, it's like a blanket that allows those SI data points to basically sit there until they need to be used. They're called upon by your TI, and there's a cognitive process where like your brain is able to perceive a new way of understanding that idea and creating an idea. I didn't do that so much with introverted intuition. I couldn't explain it as good. It's pretty much a similar concept, but more of a container getting filled. But I don't have that process as like strong. It's a background thing, and NE is really the only thing that's going to allow for NI, and then I have to be willing to act on it. So it's very complex, and you really have to recognize like it's going to be your best fit type, and there like depending on your environment is going to be like what your function, like what functions you can actually use. For instance, okay, when you think of a cognitive function, you can even think of like the fact it's just a function that humans have. Like your sense perception is like your hearing, your feeling, your thinking, your smelling. tasting. Your intuition process is the ability to connect thoughts. Your thinking process is the ability to construct something that can be recognized, and your feeling is something that can evaluate, right? Just like your legs are something that can move you, right? Now, if you use your legs to run a lot, your legs are going to be stronger at running. And if you try to run in an environment where it's very tight and compact, you're not going to be able to, because your environment doesn't allow for it. So you have legs that are able to do it, but the environment doesn't allow for that to happen. So that's pretty much how I think of the function. It's just a bodily process, and you are going to end up preferring one. And if you don't use the ones that you prefer the most, then you're going to end up struggling, I think. And honestly, I think that is kind of what happened to me. Like, running my business is like, I went like straight like ENTJ mode. Like, I really like, and I think this is important to do, is like put your ego on the back burner, because no matter what, like how you want to look at it, TI is like an ego function. So is SI. All introverted functions create your ego. It's your identity, like who you are in a way, or who you think you are. You're what you have there to say what you can do, what you have done, things like that. But like, if you put those things on the back burner, you're going to stress yourself, and that's good. You have to control it, be selective about it. Just the same way, if you decided to go to the gym, you're going to stress your muscles, and that's okay, because they're going to grow. Now, even going to the gym, it might be best to hire a coach, because that'll allow you to put your ego on the back burner instead of walking away from an exercise. Someone's telling you to do it, you're probably doing it if you paid for that session and all that. There's a lot of things that would kind of influence you to do it if you have a coach telling you not to, or telling you to do it, where your ego might tell you not to. So while I think it's a great idea to work on your ego, like develop the ego, which is your first function, second function, third function, or not third function, first function, second function, fifth function, and sixth function. There's like periods of like, giving up the ego so that you can build a better ego, but you have to give it up first. Like, you have to be willing to let go of that ego to build it up. But you're going to have to get back into understanding what that new ego is telling you. Especially, this is for introverts a lot. For extroverts, it's a little bit different, actually. For extroverts, it's more like they orient themselves to the outer world, to whatever their outer world is put into. And everybody is oriented to it, but they choose to function through that orientation. So what are the structures put in for as extroverted thinking? What is going to make society effective? They're going to follow those if they're an extroverted thinker, or if they're an extroverted feeler. What keeps harmony? What kind of systems are in place for these? And a lot of these are like set up for everybody, and everybody should experience them. They're going to go about this in a different way. So like, more of like an extroverted thinking thing is having kids educated. That's why there's public schooling. Procreation, that's why there's marriage and things that are set up that people are like told to do, and like it's like kind of an expectation from society. These are these packets of extroverted judgment that were just like given to us, and extroverts are going to enjoy those more. That's how they develop an ego. They may not understand their ego, because it's usually from the second function and fourth function, kind of. So like an FE is either going to have an NI or SI ego. That's kind of a lot, like, so the SI is really is taking like those extroverted judgment archetypes, and the ego is saying, okay, we're going to follow these, and that's why they come out to be FE or TE users. But yeah, anyways, no one came to this live stream. Well, anyways, I got more to talk about, but I'm going to see if I can edit this, because maybe, I don't know. Usually I get a couple people in here. Well, if you do watch this, let me know what time you would like me to live stream, because again, 30 days I'll be live streaming for. And I like to answer questions. My NE likes to hear the stories and then pick out like what's the best fit solution for that kind of stuff, you know? But here I am editing this and I haven't even All right. Well, I guess so yeah, I got through that. So generally, the reason I use the 8-function model is mainly just because it gives us a better way to understand how we become more conscious of functions, how we decide to act, how we decide to do a lot of different things. Plus, it's just more information to work with. It's kind of fun. I feel like there are a lot of problems with anything that has two. That's like even like the jumper stuff. If you just say that, then like it doesn't explain a lot. To be honest with you, personality typing and things like that, it's to get anything out of it that's worth getting. It's very intensive. It's not like just something quick, and yeah, there's a lot of nuance to really unpack below it. You don't have to unpack everything, but you have to be able to see a consistent pattern over a span of time. And like I said, I think that like where SE falls might have a big part in that pattern, in what it takes to actually engage with the real world. So let me know what you think about that. Like I said, I'll be doing these every day. And yeah, you can let me know if there's anything specific other than this that you would like me to talk about. I do have more lists, but I don't want to go through everything if there's no one in here. Thanks for whoever was here in the beginning. Have a good one.